for Abby Stamp, and today we're going to look at Columbia County and Benton County and see how far we get. Thank you, Carly. And we have been thinking through some of the challenges that we faced as we're trying to come together. Oh, are we live?
Brett, are we live? Because he's still in here.
Okay, just make sure we're live. So thanks, Sean. Okay, we are live. Sean's like, I see you on YouTube, so we're going with it. All right, thank you. So we've been thinking quite a bit about just the challenges we've had and really being able to make a decision that feels comfortable to the panel, and really appreciated the feedback on, not really having not reviewed the application and really understanding whether or not, it met criteria. It's hard to put this together. So today we're going to try a different pathway, and I want to walk you through it, and hopefully this will help facilitate our work ahead. I feel optimistic, and I also want to say that I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and intentionality that you're coming to this review panel in terms of just making a quality decision that feels like something that we want to put before the Oversight and Accountability Council for consideration. Next slide. So a reminder, and I did confirm this, that the OARs under the 944 OAR rules, which are related to Measure 110 work, the review panel may meet and needs to meet as many times as is necessary to provide a final funding recommendation to the OAC. So what that means is we do want to come up with a model burn that falls within a budget that can be passed forward to the OAC for review and consideration. And just want to remind everybody that the council has final approval. They can look at what we put forward and say, that doesn't seem right. Can we see all the applicants and reconsider? They can say, that sounds right, let's move forward. So this is just the beginning pathway towards getting out the funding that is needed. Hi, Amy. Next slide. Thank you. So just thinking about kind of the challenges that we faced. The idea for today to help move us forward is that when we bring up a county, I'm going to ask for the individuals that reviewed the providers within that county to begin the conversation, to do the brief summary of the applicants. And then after that, the Measure 110 team has presented a way to begin to look at a potential burn model that's within budget. We'll have the reviewers of those applicants provide their first comments and thoughts, and then move to the larger panel for discussions and options. We can amend the model in the moment if that is desired. And then once we come to a tentative final model to move forward to the council, we'll open it up to vote. So I want to pause there and just quickly see if there's any thoughts or feedback for us to consider as we move forward. Just really trying to provide information and make sure that you feel that you're hearing from the folks that reviewed the application, and that we offer some support in how to consider the budget that we are faced with. as you're thinking. One last piece to think about, and as a reminder, for competitive grants, separating out our tribal set aside, we have approximately $427 million to get out to communities for services. The counties as a whole have requested over $1 billion in services. So I want to acknowledge that this is not an easy task. If we think about making sure that programs are approved as a whole, as opposed to piecemeal, there will be some no's, and just appreciating that there'll be moments where this can get more challenging, especially with a large volume of providers within a county. So today we're going to try with some of our smaller counties that still have a need for us to go through this process and see if we can keep refining to help the panel move forward. I'll pause one more time and then Jude.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for considering the feedback and rolling it back in. It really means a lot. And I know I'm one of the people that as everyone here, taking this very seriously and trying to be really thoughtful. Can I get clarification when you say taking programs approved as a whole? Does that mean if we have an application that put in for housing, peer services, SUD treatment, that we're approving all of those?
No, my
Oh, thank you.
apologies. I think, yeah, no, that's a great question. Thanks, Jude, for asking. So what we have talked about is, and what the feedback we got from providers was, we used to do partial funding, and what providers let us know was partial funding didn't really allow them to fully implement a program, right? It didn't allow them to fully have all the staffing they needed or resources they needed. And so I know that in terms of moving forward, the idea is, can we fully fund a service area, within one program or two programs, just to make sure that we're not saying, well, you can have 50% of your budget for housing, but not 100%. And the provider is kind of like, well, we can't really accomplish what we said in our application with just that amount of funding. Does that help?
I mean, it does. When I was, working the decades I worked in community and did grants, when you get a decreased amount of funding, it goes into that negotiation of, if I get less funding, you do less with less. And so I'm just trying to hold that answer, which I totally appreciate, with there's going to be those contract negotiations. And as we think about wanting to make sure that we're awarding culturally specific and appropriate organizations, as well as, looking to fill out the whole continuum, thinking strategically in how to not set programs up to not be able to meet the goals, and figuring out how that the negotiation could make that happen too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Emily?
I want to echo Jude's comment too, and just thank you for revisiting the process and everything.
Sure.
My question is just about, if there are no reviewers present for an organization, do we still move forward with that county? I'm not sure if it would be seen as like unfair, especially if they
Yeah.
get cut and there's no one there to like talk about the great things they propose.
Yeah, no, we are going to try to make sure that there is the reviewers, or that their detailed notes are provided to their manager or colleague on the review panel, so that we do have the fullest amount of information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Carly, I think we just have one slide, and I confess that I took out the picture of the trees for us to take a deep breath. So maybe while I go through this slide, you can take your pause. But I feel really just optimistic. I think your rigor and thoughtfulness is really appreciated, and I have confidence that we are finessing this process to help us move forward and support the council in being able to make a decision. So this is just our housekeeping pieces. This meeting is live streamed. It's a public meeting. So as always, let's refrain from sharing protected or sensitive information. The chat feature is closed to keep discussion concise and focused, and so we can keep track. You all do this, you raise your hand to speak and wait to be called on. Just trying to keep our input condensed, and also, to the best of your ability to make sure it contributes to helping us make a decision to move forward. And we'll have a little bit more opportunity today, I think, to really feel more confident about some of the detailed individual application information, but you can ask for more if it's needed. The reviewers will be giving input today, and then we'll call for a vote at the end of each county discussion. So I think that it gives us an opportunity to try our new process and see if it's helpful to the panel to move us forward. Anything else from my 110 team or anybody else before we get started? Hi, Dharma. All right. Well, we finished out, we did not finish, but we finished our meeting last time with Columbia County, and so we thought that we would begin there and see if we can try this new model and how it feels and sits in terms of feeling more confident about making some of the budgetary recommendations to form the burn. And Carly, anytime you're ready for a slide is great.
I want to call roll first. Is that
Oh,
okay?
yeah, you should do that. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Of
I
course.
appreciate it.
Okay, Amy,
I'm here.
Dharma,
Here.
Hubert, Keisha, Melinda, Morgan, Nicole Silva, Ron Williams, Zeb Payne,
I'm here.
Abby is not here, Ariana,
Present.
Ane.
Nicole Silva's just entered.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
Hello, thank you.
Hi, Nicole. Dana,
Present.
Daniel Garcia, Danielle Cartwright,
Here.
David Corse,
Here.
Drew Simpson,
Here.
Elizabeth Padilla. She's out today. Emily,
Here.
Evelyn, Grace, Gregory, Greta,
Here.
Hannah,
Here.
John McIlveen,
McElveen, here.
McIlveen, thank you.
You're welcome.
Judith, is she still here?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm here.
Oh, no worries. Juliana,
I'm here.
June,
Here.
Kathy,
Here,
Kylie,
Here.
Kirsten Brown, Liz,
Here.
Luann, Mark Jansen.
Here.
Maya. Nicole Corbin.
I'm here.
Nicole Egler.
Here.
Rachel Lawrence.
Here.
Sam Byers.
Here.
Sarah Adelhart.
Here.
Sarah Hubner. Sean McMahon.
Here.
Stanley.
Here.
Tammy.
Here.
Tatiana.
Good morning. Here.
Good morning. And Tim Scott.
Here.
And we have a quorum with 30.
Terrific. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. I know that we have a couple people that joined right away because their applicants are up in our first time. So I want to make sure that we head right into it. Unless I'm missing any other housekeeping that I need to do, Carly, I say let's go to Columbia. First thing to do is a call for conflicts. Please let us know if you have a potential conflict of interest or an actual conflict of interest, and we'll just pause. I don't recall any last time, but want to make sure that we give the opportunity for that. I think silence is the answer. Next slide. All right, Columbia County, just as a refresher, not going to fully go over all the process overview. I think we've captured that and mostly want to make sure that we stay focused on the task at hand with our new pathway ahead. And keep going. Collective calm. Yep, here we go. All right. Here's some basic information about Columbia County. Is a largely rural character. That is true. I love blending scenic natural areas with small towns. That is true if you drive out that way. The economy is driven by industries like timber manufacturing and agriculture. You can see the unemployment rate is, about 4.6 and poverty rate is 9.1%. There's 52,865 people. I know that's the number that we like to keep in mind as we're reviewing. And next slide. So the county-wide base formula was $5,964,831.41. We had a total of 5 applications submitted. You can see the 5 that met the minimum standards to be reviewed and move forward. The total applications pass scoring were the 5. The county-wide ask is over 15 million. That means that as we are looking to form a burn that is within budget, there is about $9,763,000 that are over the amount that we have as a base formula. Next slide. So this lets you know that we have 2 providers that are looking to offer screening services. Next slide. 2 for assessments. 3 for substance use disorder treatment. We have 4 for peer support, 3 for harm reduction, and 2 for housing. And this allows us to just see the green as a reminder is where the reviewers both said yes. Blue is where there was one reviewer who said yes and the other said no. And then the orange, both reviewers said no. Our focus is on where there were 2 greens, and I'm going to pause and let the reviewers begin to just give us some information on their thoughts on the applications they reviewed. And feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to call on each of you in order. Judith.
Okay, so first I want to acknowledge it. I feel like I'll do better when I have time to prepare a little bit more of my summary, because as we've been reviewing a lot of things, people start to mix, and this was our first round. But I reviewed only the CCMH application, so the one with the multiple requests for multiple areas. From what I'm remembering, and we can pull up and look at their answers if folks have questions. They are able to bill Medicaid. They do bill Medicaid for services, including, if I'm remembering, screening and assessment. My understanding, having reread the Chapter 944, is it isn't just SUD treatment, but it's low barrier SUD treatment that we're funding. So people should be billing for stuff that they can bill for, and the low barrier is stuff that is unbillable. And Columbia County, even though we have the Medicaid waiver, I don't think it's fully functional, and have been providing services in collaboration with their local county jail. They are proposing to augment the billable peer support that they have to have it funded out with enough peers to do a 24/7 peer response. So combining their teams, requesting to get to that amount, billing where they can bill, and augmenting out to get that 24/7 coverage, which is, in my experience of working with agencies that do peer services, things often don't happen between 9 and 5. So having the ability to do that actually will increase people's linkage to care. The harm reduction budget that they have proposed, having looked at that and looked in the literature for how much it costs to run a mobile-based, multi-site, comprehensive harm reduction services, while that number may look large, stretching that number out 4 years, I can tell that they're likely, even though I can't remember if they said it directly, their peers are probably working that whole continuum, and the harm reduction peers are at this point unbillable. So that's what I remember from the application. The points that I think are important to consider as we look at the continuum is what can be billed for, and circling back to the conversation, having looked at their application where you list your partners, Columbia County Mental Health does partner with Medicine Wheel Recovery Services. So they are partner agencies that work together, if that is important for folks to know. But I think it's really important to think about what can people bill for, what are they not able to bill for, and does this seem reasonable? So that's what I remember about the application. And in my experience of working with several counties that have CCMHs, they are very community engaged. They do multiple languages, including ASL sign language. I believe it's more than Spanish language services that they provide. And that's what I have.
Thank you.
Please ask questions, and we can look them up.
Tim?
Hey, just full disclosure, I have a sick kid as a co-pilot here, so we're just gonna see how it goes. But I reviewed Boulder Care, which we're all pretty familiar with, so I don't have a ton to add. I thought they did a good job of demonstrating the value that telehealth could bring. The one thing I guess, of note for this county is that I did not recommend their harm reduction programming. I thought they did not adequately discuss their history of providing that service and their service. The services, like the activities they described, were pretty minimal, I thought, and just given the nature of harm reduction services and the value of those services being located specifically within a given community, I thought that it just didn't seem like the best option for harm reduction. But I did recommend their other service areas.
Thank you. Rachel?
Hi, I just wanted, oh, hi. Oops. I just wanted to echo Tim's statements. I was the other reviewer on the Boulder Care app and had several Boulder applications that I reviewed, so it looked consistent, and I didn't flag the harm reduction cost. I did approve them, but I can understand the reluctance or concern around that, since the majority of the funding was really just around supplies. So yeah, I don't really have anything meaningful to contribute. Just wanted to let you know that I was one of the reviewers. So
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Juliana?
I don't know if we're going in a particular order, so apologies if we are, but I reviewed Iron Tribe. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, so I'll be brief. They only applied for housing, and I approved them because they had a very detailed application, especially for 7. They have linguistically specific services for Spanish-speaking communities. They have bilingual and bicultural staff, and all of their material and programming are available in both Spanish and English. For 8, they demonstrated that they're able to and have experience providing services in all of those areas. So like trauma-informed, culturally linguistic specific, gender affirming, all of those. And they are both providing housing at a specific location, which they described in detail what the programming there would be like. It's inclusive of substance use disorder and peer support, even though they didn't apply for money for peer support. And they're also providing rental assistance, which is also really important to keep people housed, to keep them sober. And they also can't bill Medicaid, so they would be using grant money to fund services that are not they're not able to bill Medicaid for.
Thank you. On the Iron Tribe, Sarah Adelhart, were you the counterpart on this one? And I don't know if you have anything to add, and if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, I actually don't. I had a similar assessment of their application. And I think I noted this when we talked about them the other day, but the ask is specific to one home that they currently run in St. Helens.
Perfect, thank you. Are there reviewers who reviewed Back to Basics Recovery with us? And or Medicine Wheel?
Hi, Sam, it's John. I reviewed Back to Basics.
Oh, great. Hi, John.
Hey.
Any kind of summary or thoughts you can provide to the review panel?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So basically, the Columbia County Back to Basics project is an extension of 4D services, that have been providing peer services and now going into housing for many years in Multnomah County and other areas. So the proposal is to expand service activities in partnership with obviously with 4D and essentially I'm summarizing here, but recovery oriented system of care, peer support and recovery support, as well as checking notes here. I believe two recovery housing units, NAR accredited, National Association of Recovery Residences accredited. I believe it's two. I'll find it, but I believe it's two. And 4D has a long history of providing recovery supports and recovery housing in Clackamas and in Multnomah County. They're also going to be using some of these funds to do a low barrier drop-in recovery center, focusing activities on mutual aid meetings and a variety of recovery supportive activities, art therapy, fitness, gender specific 12-step, and recovery support meetings. Yeah, sorry, Back to Basics will open 2 transitional recovery houses, providing services for 1 year, open to adult men. So, and also in terms of criminal justice and criminalization and the like, they're going to have 2 peers connected to deflection and criminal justice reduction efforts, and have already established relationships with treatment and county services in Columbia as well as surrounding areas. So pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Sure.
And sorry, just for clarification, this extension of 4D is already in Columbia, or they're hoping to expand into Columbia with this funding?
Expand into Columbia with the funding.
Perfect. Thank you. Nicole Silva, I think you're here. I don't know if you have anything to add. I think you're the counterpart on this.
Hi, yes, that is correct. I am the counterpart. I am so sorry. I am in the process of trying to pull up the scoring sheet that I reviewed off the top of my head, because this was a while back. I honestly cannot remember my rationale, so I apologize. If anything pops up, I'll place it in the chat or raise my hand.
Perfect. That's great.
Thank
We
you.
can
Apologize.
we can at least give you some time and then move to Medicine Wheel Recovery Services, which I believe was identified by the review panel as a culturally specific provider as well. And I'm not sure who the reviewers were for that. Tatiana and Sarah Huber, I think, if I have my list right.
I was one of the reviewers for Medicine Wheel. Just overall, a solid proposal. Their strengths really, as you noted, Sam, around culturally specific strategies related to Native American and tribal communities. One of the areas that, if they move forward with funding, would benefit from some technical assistance around just reviewing the budget. I think there were some areas that were confusing and could benefit from some additional refresh in terms of how the budget supports the proposed activities. But overall, it seemed like, based on what was in the application, what I could review, that they had a comprehensive approach. They are a previous burn grantee, and that in their milestone chart, they did demonstrate the folks that they've served historically. Part of the milestone chart proposes what they will do with the new funding, but again, it was another area that that wasn't complete. And so again, if it moves forward, just taking a look at the proposed number of clients that will be served in the future. But overall, given the population they serve, their deep understanding of the needs and experiences, both having staff who have lived experiences with Native communities, I had recommended to move forward with funding.
Thank you. I want to pause and just see if the review panel as a whole has any questions that they'd like to ask. Or Zeb?
Yeah, just real quick.
Sure.
Can somebody tell me why the program cost for Iron Tribe is 1.135 million?
Yes, we can. Sorry.
Sorry, I was pulling up my
you.
my stuff here. So the most of their costs are going to staffing. So to have their manager, resident manager, housing specialist as 1.0 FTE. And then partially funding the FTE for a part-time facility staff, program director, executive director, office management, hiring an accountant, and then payroll taxes and such. So that's the bulk of their costs over the 4 years.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions before we offer a different visual of this for the panel? And please know, like, as we move forward, if you're like, wait, can we go back and just clarify one thing? Absolutely, we can do that.
Hi, Sam. This is Jason. Can I just add a little more clarity on the Iron Tribe budget
Please,
for the program
thank you.
costs?
Yeah.
What Sarah said was great, perfect. They do have the program staff costs, but they also, I did notice there is a large amount, about 800,000 of those program costs is actually for rental assistant program. So that there's in the services and supplies cost. So there's a large amount there that looks like is actually going directly to rental assistance, which maybe should have been classified more as directly in the housing. I'm not sure, but just to make sure we understand why that's so high.
So Jason, just to clarify, and Zeb, you gave a thumbs up. So making sure that we're all understanding, there's a little over $1 million requested. About 800,000 is in housing vouchers. So not necessarily like a house with staff in it, but just the ability to get people temporarily housed. Is that right? And then a couple of staff to support that work.
I believe so. Yeah, it says rental assistant program. There's probably really more information on that. I'm just looking at the budget right now. But yeah,
great.
just it says the rental assistance program is 800,000 of that program cost.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, with no other immediate questions, and please feel free. This is the this slide shows you the original countywide base formula based on the reviewers both giving 2 thumbs up to recommend to say yes to the applicant. We've got a little over 12 million requested. So we're still a little over 6 million to look at. And from here, if I'm correct, Kylie, I'm going to hand it over to you to offer the review panel a different perspective on how to think through some of this. And I think next slide is probably coming up. Am I right? These were the priorities. Next slide. Next slide. I wanted to go straight to Kylie's slides. If you
they're not slides, it's in Live in Excel.
Oh, let me stop sharing my screen.
Thanks. The other piece is we're just doing the switch out here. One of the things that I had forgotten to just mention at the beginning of our review panel is the other piece of feedback that we did receive and that you're 100% correct about is that our rubric really asked, you know, did this applicant fully complete an answer to the question? And you know, some of that very kind of linear, yes, it's comprehensive and complete, comes from some feedback we received in the first go around of Measure 110, where there was a lot of feedback that some of the qualitative comments were too subjective, were potentially biased. And so we were really just trying to put forward a model where we could look as equitably across applicants, provide any insight that we have, and then move forward. So I did want to acknowledge that tension point. And as we were thinking through that, Kylie came up with this model for us. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Can you all see this? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what we're looking at, in my head yesterday, I was thinking a lot about how to make this more visually helpful. And I thought about kind of like making brackets similar to March Madness. So what we have here is, this is the screen that you guys have all been looking at, the greens, the blues, and the oranges. The blues and the orange has just been taken out for right now, just looking at where both reviewers, like Sam had said, are in consensus over their approval for each service area. So if we look, we can see that Columbia Community Mental Health and Medicine Wheel are the only two applicants who asked for screening right here. So if we were to look at the reviewer scores, which Sam has noted, it was more for meeting the directions and requirements outlined in the RFGA. I just looked at, so there's a lot of different ways we can do this, but looking at these top scores, trying to figure out what the highest are, where there was both the reviewers thought that they followed directions, but also that the quality. And now that we have all the reviewers here, your input is greatly helpful in this process. So if we look at just screening, and if I just went on reviewer scores, you can see that Columbia Community Mental Health had 128 and a 26 is higher than a 25 and 24. So if that was the bracket number one you wanted to use, we would just use Columbia Community Mental Health. Or we could do a different bracket where I was trying to listen to you all during the meeting and hearing about culturally responsive and linguistic responsive organizations. And so I heard somebody say Medicine Wheel. So I put that over here as maybe a potential for bracket 2. Could there be enough money for where both screening entities for only 164 could both be approved? Absolutely. But this just helps break down the choice a little bit. Same with assessments. So these head-to-head, those are the only two. You could technically fund both of them for 405, but each one individually is spaced out into two different brackets. This model is a little bit more helpful when you have more than just two providers. So we can see here with the SUD treatment and peer support. So SUD has 3 entities who applied for it, and you can see their culminating scores, 28-28, 28-26, 25-24. So if I just pulled the top 2 scores out of this initial bracket, I would have Boulder Care coming head to head, you know, make-believe wise, but with Columbia County Mental Health. And so looking at these options, if I wanted to change that up, maybe I'll go and remove Boulder Care if that's not, you know, one of them, and put these 2 head to head and seeing which ones come out. Same for peer support. So we have Boulder Care and Columbia Community. And then we also have Columbia Mental Health and Medicine Wheel. Not saying that Back to Basics can't be added in. They just had a score of 22, which was lower than the others. Housing, Iron Tribe, and for harm reduction, there are only an option for each of these. So down here in my little, you know, play around area, I can see that my housing and my harm reduction are these totals. If I just were to choose these providers, so 2 for peer support, screening, assessment, SUD, this burn is technically complete, at $4,582,702.99, bringing us 1.3 million under this cap, which would account for, this does not include program costs. So this is just providing. But this gives us an opportunity to either say, yes, I agree with these matchups. I want to switch them around. I want to play around with the money. How can it feels better to add to it than take away and subtract, because it can feel really overwhelming when you're looking at a total ask, right, of $12 million. So this way, we're actually under. So if you want me to leave this up, we can play around with it. If people want to talk about it, I'm happy to create a brand new burn down here. However you all feel, if this is helpful.
Thanks, Kylie. Just thoughts from the review panel. I'd love to, again, as Kylie's asking, is this a little helpful just to have a starting place, appreciating that we can switch it around. We also have 1.3 million to add to the model that Kylie just put forward, and want to acknowledge also, we have council members here in our review panel, so please chime in if I'm misstating any information. But one of the core values of the OAC is around expanding and providing culturally specific services, and just want to acknowledge that in this formula, the one identified culturally specific provider, if I'm reading this right, is currently not in the countywide formula that we have. And we still have 1.3 million to add to it. So I'll pause there and let us know if you'd like us to keep it up or show, or just maybe expand even the potential model with considerations for others. Excellent. Now the hands are up. I love it. Okay, Jude.
Okay, so I need to acknowledge that my brain does not work on basketball brackets. So for me, this unfortunately doesn't work. It actually I'm more confused, but I guess as I look at this.
So Jude, just to clarify, what is being compared here is the total scores.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So as I'm thinking, and maybe I'm thinking about this just in a different way, because for me, when we had the directions this morning, it seems like, and having looked at the application for CCMH, who collaborates with these other groups, including Medicine Wheel, that funding that is possible, at least in these screenings, to fund CCMH and Medicine Wheel. And I know that it's that groups would want all or none, but do they really want none, or would there be a contractual decrease of what their expected deliverables were? Because we haven't even talked about some of the deliverables, because I think in some of the applications I've seen, the deliverables are really low, and other ones are really high, and some of them they take 2 years. But I feel like to me, the way I think, looking at it as a column, that's what this helps do. But I think having the discussion that allows us to look across again and talk about culturally specific services. That's just how my brain is working. So
I appreciate that. And Jude, also keep in mind the idea of being able to comprehensively move forward an applicant with their full ask was from feedback we had gotten from the first round from providers, to say that the reduction or piecemealing was not helpful, but also appreciating that, there is a feeling that is some better than none. But that is the one of the key pieces. And then also I want to remind the review panel that these are 5 applications. When we get to some of our larger counties, we will have to look through 57 applicants, right? So it really is, you know, just is looking at the top score and then discussing and moving things around a way to maybe move us forward in determining the burn. Emily.
So I do just want to say initially, I have pretty strong initial reactions to just using the scores, knowing that they weren't based on the quality of the services and how they align with the program being used to move this forward. I have a feeling that probably most people in this meeting feel the same way. But I do also just have a technical question. Can you scroll down a little bit? I just want to make sure I understand what we're working with here with that 1.3 left over. That does not include program costs, or so how is, because we have to include those, right? So where are we with program costs for those? Because I don't know how we ignore, it's not like we have 1.3 million to like add to play around with in reality, unless we're saying that we're not going to fund program costs. But it also seems like if we don't fund those, a lot of these other service areas won't be possible. So do we have that number including program costs? And also, like, do we have any way of knowing if they lose a service area, how an organization's program costs might shift so that we can actually understand that? Because they're also interrelated. It's hard to look at them just by service area, especially when you might think that like their peers are doing their harm reduction or they are working in their housing program or vice versa. I don't know. I just feel like we have to look at all the program costs together with these other ones.
Kylie, do you want to comment
Yeah,
on
I mean, the program costs are not included in this. And if you look at somebody like Iron Tribe, who asked for over $1 million in program costs and only selected housing, for also an additional, $1 million, then you look at that 1.3 and that's gone. So this was definitely just an example visual of what could be, knowing that there might be some modification, but I want everyone to know that the scores are there, but they were not necessarily the thing that I didn't review any of this county. So I'm relying on your reviewer input and your narrative to help move things over into an agreed upon area. So this is just a visual representation of how we're doing that, where we're adding to a burn instead of taking away, which gives you all the priority providers that have great community impact, that have great past performance, have already maybe had past funds to support and are continuing or expanding. So this is coming from somebody who is really ignorant to all of these providers and to all of this, but was just doing the analysis aspect.
a second option I do want to say is that we go back to the original and we say no to certain providers completely until we get to the budget that we have. So
and I haven't done the math. So if you guys are saying that CC, MH, and Medicine Wheel, and because Iron Tribe has the only housing, that those are the 3, and that we knock out Back to Basics and Boulder Care, then I can play around with those numbers also and provide you with what that total looks like.
June?
Yeah, and I don't, I always try to evaluate what I'm going to say before I say it to make sure it's helpful to conversation. So, this is so hard. I'm not sure if we could look at how many folks these organizations plan on serving. I think that might be important in this conversation. Also, I want to say that peer support is, and just in my opinion, being a person who's provided peer support is more effective boots on the ground, meaning face-to-face conversations. And I know that Boulder Care is a virtual platform. It's done over the phone. And so I'm not so sure, and I hate saying this, I would love to see all these folks funded, but if we're looking at what's most effective, we might look at that. And I know that's a very small amount also, but I would also hate to see Boulder Care not funded, especially in SUD, as they're providing, you know, very quick access to Medicaid assisted recovery. So just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you. Amy? Amy, you're on mute if you're talking. Okay, we'll come back to Amy. Tammy?
I'm here. First, I do want to say thank you for including the scores. To me, that was extremely important. I mean, if the sheet's set up with the scoring, it's nice to see what was scored across the board. And then second, too, I'd like to put a motion forward to go ahead and move ahead Columbia Community Mental Health with the OAC consider the high peer support. That kind of price bothers me a little. But also I'd like to move forward Iron Tribe and Medicine Wheel Recovery Services.
Tammy, do you want to make the motion or would you like to see that combination first?
I would like to make that motion to move those three ahead with my concern for the Columbia Community Mental Health, please.
Okay, can you repeat the motion one more time, just so we have it on record? Thank you. We have a motion that Tammy's about to make.
Yes, that would, oh, sorry, she went and moved it away.
Okay.
So I'd like to move ahead the Columbia Community Health, I'm sorry, now I don't have it in front of me, so I have a hard time saying it. And then for the OAC to consider the amount listed under the peer support to just relook at those financials. And then Medicine Wheel fully forward and Iron Tribe fully forward.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Zeb. Could we, for my team, and then I will, Hannah, I'll be with you in just 1 second. As we move that model forward, does that give us the full service for the burn and support a budget that's close to the funding base? And Kylie, I think I'm putting you sort of on the mathematical spot there as you're
I'm going for it. Sorry, I just had to come off and share so I can do the math behind it.
Okay, as you're doing that, Hannah, I know you had your hand up, so I want you to go ahead and ask your question, then we'll come back to Kylie.
Yeah, I was just curious, and I'm not sure if we already discussed it, but outside of Boulder Care, out of the other 4 organizations, are any of them providing telehealth? That was my first question. And then as it relates to the budget and funding a full burn, maybe reconsidering reconsider funding Boulder Care, for just given that multiple organizations have applied for screening and assessment, or they only applied for peer services and SUD treatment, but just curious if there is any telehealth among the other applicants, and then if there are, just wanted to see if it is a need to still fund Boulder Care's peer services, if that's already covered. I hope that makes sense. But
that makes sense. I think we have a motion that's on the table that that Tammy put forward and Zeb second. And if I'm saying this motion right, the motion is to move Columbia Community Mental Health forward with a request for the OAC to look into the cost of the peer services Also to move Medicine Wheel forward at 100%. And Tammy, am I saying this right? And also move Iron Tribe forward.
That is correct.
And then Zeb, that was a second for you. And before we move forward, Kylie, let's just see what those three bring us. Thanks.
If you don't have, I do have the numbers, Kylie, if you don't have it yet. That those moving all of those forward, it does cover all the service areas, but it will bring us to a total ask of just under 8 million, which is about 2 million over the cap, the
So we still
suggested
need
cap for
to,
the county.
okay.
Yep.
So Kylie, sorry, can we put those in a box so the review panel can see and we can look again at the funding? Jude?
Yeah, I just have a question, and maybe this is I'm not sure if this is a Robert's Rules issue or not. But can we end, like, I see there's a lot of people on the call, and I'm just wondering if we make a motion to move towards a vote, is there any way to make a motion ahead of that to see if everyone who wants to say something has said something? Because I feel like ending discussion and moving to a motion, if someone was thinking, they might not have had the time to raise an issue, and now they're voting on a motion to move something.
Well, I think
It's
that's why
just a
we're-
question about.
That's
procedure.
why we're pausing to ask for comments. Because once we have the motion and the second, we will vote on those. We'll need to see that through. So I think it is about asking for comments as we go along.
Can you see that?
Yes, so we're 2 million.
So we come in at 7.9, and our county cap is 5.9. So there's program costs, which for CCMH and Medicine Wheel are not super significant, but the Iron Tribe is high, and so
Any thoughts from the review? Zeb?
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so when we move this forward, do we have to make sure it's under that, under the cap?
That we are really putting forward a reasonable funding request that comprises the burn. And appreciating, Zeb, that once it's before the council may even switch out, right? The providers, and we'll have the ability to rethink the burn model, but also appreciating that with 427 million available and over $1 billion in ask, where it's definitely a challenge, and we are paring it down and appreciating the need is real in our communities.
So with that being said, I mean, making a kind of a big cut to the program costs of Iron Tribe. I know that a lot of that's hotel vouchers. I mean, it seemed like that would have to be done along with reducing the peer support for Columbia Community Mental Health. Granted, we want to keep things as a whole, but to move this forward to the council, those things would drastically drop that. We may need to take a cut somewhere else, but we do also need to move these things forward to the council to look at. We could also make adjustments there.
And Zeb, just in terms of your suggestion, are you suggesting kind of getting closer to budget by reducing those two program costs?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. I mean, this makes a complete burn. You got all the aspects here, including the housing, just about, making a reduction to get below that cap.
I would agree with that on my motion.
Can we discuss how much we want to remove from the program costs then?
Well, I guess the thing is, without having all the things in front of us, like, so Iron Tribe provides a housing. They're an existing program that has, they're throughout the state. Hotel voucher program is amazing. Gets people off the street, get them safe until, get stabilized. But we have to make some decisions here. And I mean, that would have to take a drastic cut of like, just throwing a number out there, like 65%, 70%. And then like with peer support for Columbia County, like a 20% reduction there. It could also take, take 10% off Medicine Wheel for peer support.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Seb, do you want to make a motion to that effect? And
well, I guess the question is, I don't know what that would add up to.
There's a motion on the floor, and the person who made the motion can amend it.
Kathy, say that again, or go ahead and let's do the housekeeping of the first motion, and then we can get back to this.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kathy, I couldn't hear your last part.
There was a motion on the floor. I believe it was Tammy or Tatiana?
Tammy.
Tammy, to move forward Columbia Community Mental Health to OAC with concerns for them looking into the cost for peer services and to move Iron Tribe and Medicine Wheel recovery forward. We need to either table it or have an amendment done from Tammy.
From Tammy. Okay. As we're doing this, Jason, Kylie, can you look at what possible numbers would look like based on Zeb's feedback? And then I'll call on John while we're working on that. John?
Hey, thanks, Sam. This isn't a subject specific question. It's more of a process question. What type of rule framework is this discussion happening under? I'm just having difficulty following the process of discussion.
Yeah, so
movement.
it's a great question. Under the 944 rules and then the change in legislative process, we are the initial, first we did the review and scoring of the applications. The second phase that's required is a review panel that puts forward a burn model that is pretty much within the recommended base formula for a county. And then that recommendation goes to the full Oversight and Accountability Council for review and final vote.
Right. Yeah. And that's helpful. And yeah, I'd seen that. I get that. But I mean, the actual management of the discussion of the review panel, I just, and it's neither here nor there. I'm just trying to clarify, like in terms of, I was just a bit confused about, who can make motions and
oh yeah, so
votes
anybody can make a motion. This is a public meeting. It requires quorum. Anyone in the review panel can make a motion, and then we need a second, and then we vote as a full review.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I see it. Yep. Sarah?
Is it too late to just add a point of clarification about Iron Tribe?
No, you can do that. There's discussion after the motion.
Okay, I just wanted to, just wanted to be clear that the housing costs that we're talking about aren't just hotel vouchers, it's rental assistance in general, but not, there wasn't anything in their project scope about hotels specifically. I just wanted to call that out.
Thank you. Jason, Kylie, any numbers that we can share with the review panel?
Not yet for me, sorry.
Well, I guess I'm not sure. I mean, there wasn't specific amounts that was suggested to be pulled out, so I'm not really sure, like, I guess I'm not sure how to do the math without, because it was just sort of like if we pull some out of program costs and pull some out of personnel, but I don't know what, or peer support, I mean, for Columbia Community, but I'm not sure how much we're supposed to, I guess that's what I'm not sure about, like what parts or pieces or how much is of any of that.
do you want to comment?
Yeah, with existing those three organizations, could we make across the board 20, like I don't know what the math is exactly, but like a 23% reduction in budget, which may put us under that cap. That's just doing some rough math in my head, so I don't know if that's accurate. Now, like we said before, we want to push everything forward with full funding. 80% funding is pretty good, considering. I don't know if that's possible.
You know,
Emily?
To go along with what Zeb is discussing, are we able to, like, instead of saying we're going to take this percentage from each service area, say like we're moving them forward with a 20% overall cut, and then they can figure out where that makes the most sense for the
At
service
the council? Yep.
or the program. 'Cause
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
Not knowing how everything's interconnected, it's really difficult for me to know
Yep.
like
Yep.
what to do there. Okay.
Great. You got a thumbs up from Zeb too. Tammy,
Yeah,
not to put you on the spot, but you had the original motion. Given all the conversation, Kathy, will you give Tammy can amend or?
She can amend this. The motion currently on the floor is a motion to move forward Columbia Community Mental Health to the OAC with concern for them looking into the cost for peer services and to move Iron Tribe and Medicine Wheel Recovery Services forward.
Yes, Sam, I would like to amend my motion to move forward. I'd like to move forward the three that I discussed earlier, which is the Columbia Community Health, sorry, I'm trying to see, I can't see.
That's all right, I got
Iron
it.
Tribe and the Medicine Wheel forward with the 20% that Zeb also added to that in reduction to their budget.
So we have a
if we want to
motion.
get close just math wise, at 75% or a 25% cut across the board would bring them right at cap. If that helps.
Is this for all entities in this or just
The three.
CCH?
The three.
The three.
The three, yeah. Do we want to keep that at 20%, Tammy, or do you want to change that to a 25?
25%, please.
Okay. So it is to move forward with Columbia Mental Health, Iron Tribe, Medicine Wheel Recovery with a 25% reduction.
Do we have a second?
By second.
Thanks, Seb. So we have a motion to move forward the three entities before you, Columbia Community Mental Health, Iron Tribe, and Medicine Wheel Recovery, with each of them be moved forward with a 25% reduction across. All three entities to be put forward to the OAC for for review and final approval. That was put forward by Tammy. We have a second from Zeb, and I think we go to vote. And I'm wondering if Carly and Kathy, can we do a hand vote or should we do verbal call?
I think verbal would be best. I can try and get through it really quickly.
Great. Let's do our vote.
Would you like me to stop sharing?
Yeah, but it's not necessary. And apologies for having my camera off. I'm hoping it keeps me connected. Okay, Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dharma?
Yes.
Hubert is not here. Keisha? Melinda? Morgan? Nicole Silva?
Yes.
Ron Williams? Zeb Payne?
Yes.
Ariana?
Abstain on the grounds that I'm a GA for one of these.
Ane? Dana? Dana, are you still here?
I see her. Oh, she's having tech issues.
Okay.
Can Dana put her
Yes.
response in the chat? Thank you.
Absolutely. Danielle Cartwright?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Drew? Is Drew still here? Elizabeth? She is gone. Emily?
Yes.
I think Evelyn is still out. Grace? Greta?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
John?
Abstain.
Jude?
Hi, this is Jude. Unfortunately, I'm going to vote no, and I can speak to why if someone has a question.
Juliana?
Yes.
June?
I abstain.
Kathy?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Kirsten? Don't think she's here. Liz?
Abstain.
Luann? Mark?
Yes.
Don't think Maya joined. Nicole Corbin?
Yes.
Nicole Egler?
Yes.
Rachel Lawrence?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Sarah Adelhart?
Yes.
And did the other Sarah join? Hubner? I think so. Sean?
Yes.
Stanley?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Tatiana?
Yes.
And Tim?
Yes.
And that passes with 23.
Thanks, Carly.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing amount of work by all of you. And a deep appreciation. We have a little bit of time left. We do have one county that looks like it for Crook. Am I right, Kylie, that it's a smaller one?
It is less than Curry and less than Benton. That is correct.
Okay, let's take a look at that. Jude?
Yeah, I wanted to explain my no vote, and it is not that I don't think these agencies are excellent and will do excellent work. I do feel like if we're going to have an agency be knocked out, we should be really clear and we should vote on that so that the agency that's not getting funded knows exactly why they were taken off the table. And that's the only reason. I'm not 100% sure if we articulated or if everyone agreed on taking the Boulder Care and the other group, the Back to Recovery group, off the table. So I don't know if we can amend that moving forward, just because I think it would help people understand the vote, because it seemed to just happen from my perspective.
I think also, Jude, that is something that the council will review and want to know as well. And you know, this is challenging, I know, but we do have 334 applicants to get through and for the council to review by the end of January. So we really are just trying to move some some framework to the council to give them a starting point to be able um, to do their thoughtful deliberation and make sure that they are seeing the full county and have what they need. And I hope, as hard as that is, that is the space that we're in.
Yeah, I understand. I just wanted to explain my vote no, because I noted a lot of
appreciate
people
that.
abstained.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, call for conflicts for Crook County. Any potential or actual conflicts of interest? I'll just pause to let anyone note or announce. Okay, thank you. Carly, if we could go directly to the slide with the map of Crook, that would be great. That's right, Kathy. The OAC will see the full list of applicants and what the recommendation was from the best solution that this review panel came up with. Thanks for the reminder. So Crook County is one of our Central Oregon counties. It's historically reliant on timber and agriculture. It's diversifying some of its economy. The unemployment rate is approximately 5%, similar to or slightly below state average. We're looking at a population of about 25,000 people, and the poverty rate is 7.9% lower than state and national average. The median age is 47. There's a significant senior population here. That's interesting. Okay, next slide. So we have a countywide funding formula was the base formula was $3,444,248.07. We had a total of 3 applications submitted, 3 passed scoring, and the total countywide applicant ask is $512,726.50 over the county base. So not quite as large as we just grappled with in our last in Columbia. So next slide. So we have 2 providers that have put forth for screening, 2 for assessment, 2 for substance use disorder treatment, all 3 for peer support, 2 for harm reduction, and 1 for housing. And here we are. So all of these applications got 2 votes, 2 yes scores from providers, from reviewers, with the exception of looks like Rimrock Trails Treatment Services had 1 reviewer that recommended and 1 that did not. With that being said, for our Crook County review team, I'm wondering if we have Ariana and Dharma, I think, were assigned a Crook County provider, and I'm wondering if you could start us off with just any information you'd like to share about who you reviewed.
Sure, I can. This is Ariana.
Thank you.
I reviewed Rimrock Trails, and I recommended to fund all of the areas that they applied for. I felt that they do have a good plan to go forward with SUD in Crook County in particular. Concerns I had, I didn't feel like their strategy for addressing return to use was thorough enough, that their plans weren't great. I did feel that they had good connections with the rest of the community and that they overall would be an asset to Crook County. And that's the only one that I reviewed.
Thank you.
I can jump on now too. I think I also just reviewed Rimrock.
Thank you.
I didn't do, I voted to approve them for all areas except for SUD treatment. And this is the first one I'd reviewed. I think I was not as confident in the SUD treatment that they'd offered. I thought that it was more wraparound services and didn't feel like it was actually as focused on what the council like valued as far as SUD treatment services available. And so that's why I didn't recommend them for that. I recommended them for the other areas. I wasn't as confident in their assessment of return to use either, though it seemed like they just had a basic harm reduction strategy. It didn't feel like there was a strong commitment there, but I still recommended them to move forward on the other ones. I think in looking at it again, I still stand by the assessment with the SUD that I don't think it was best, but looking at that there's not another provider who's going to be there, I would be supportive of them being funded for that, given that I did not see Best Care's card though.
Right. Thanks, Dharma. Rachel Lawrence, David Course, I think you both scored another provider here.
Yeah, I scored Boulder Care.
Great, thanks.
And I would just say we seem to have a consensus working through Boulder Care into the other areas. Their application is I scored them ones in many areas, just because it seemed that a more robust specific application could be presented. That being said, I did try to couple that or temper that with the fact that the specific type of SUD treatment they provide, which isn't necessarily called out in our general rubric very often, is specifically MAT telehealth, which is something that's pretty sorely needed in many communities. I'm not sure what the other providers in the applications here in Crook what their capacity is around specifically MAT. So I did have that in mind when reviewing their application. They do have significant experience doing that work, and are able to bill Medicaid for most of their services. So they do have some general harm reduction methods. They don't necessarily get very specific, but they do distribute Narcan, et cetera. So that's not, obviously, they could do a lot more with that. But again, it didn't feel like it was sufficient to give them a 0 in that area. So I recommended to move them forward.
Thank you.
Can you remind me what the overage was on the funding here?
I believe it's 512,000. Could we go back, Carly? Sorry to.
I was just gonna say,
Oh,
currently, if you go down a slide, Carly, I think.
Only 184. Yeah. Okay.
But
thank you.
Yeah, so we are really not far from the mark at all. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share with everyone.
That's great. We're very close. I don't know if it would help now that we know we're about 184,000, 185,000 over. Would it be helpful to see the scores, or does the review panel feel comfortable just looking at the green or thinking about a similar, motion from the last review? Emily.
Sorry, I just wanted to get this in before we just started focusing in on the greens. This question is for the folks who reviewed Rimrock. I'm just curious if they, I have, I guess, a few questions. One, if they're able to bill Medicaid, and if they're funding for SUD treatment, if they are able to bill Medicaid and other insurances, if their wraparound services were really to complement and to allow people to stay in SUD treatment services, because I think we see that commonly with Measure 110 is that their services enable a person to get the SUD treatment. And may not be specifically like the clinical Medicaid reimbursable services that they're providing. And I don't know if they discussed that in their application at all.
Well, Dharma and Ariana have their hand up. So, Dharma?
I think that I think that you're making me understand too that that was probably what it is here, and that the services that they're charging for here, I don't think are the Medicaid eligible funds, based on my understanding of their application.
Ariana?
I noted that in their application, they say they're actively seeking Medicaid funds, but they haven't been able to receive them yet. And that in the future, when they do get Medicaid funds, assuming that they do, that they'll use it as much as possible in order to conserve Measure 110 funding for areas that are not covered.
Thank you. And did you both have different question? Dharma, I know that you raised your hand and then
I had a
I
suggestion.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a suggestion that we can you go back one slide? The suggestion would just be to would be to just reduce the harm reduction from the Boulder Care and to the remainder of the 180,000 from the Rimrock Trails Treatment Services for SUD, and then move that forward to put it right at cap.
If I'm correct, the 275,000 is not in the recommended formula. Is that right? On the next slide, because it didn't have 2 reviewers.
I see.
I mean, that said it had 2 reviewers, but not 2 that said yes.
In the next slide, it should be reflective that the Boulder Care was crossed over for the 313 for SED. So
Gotcha.
the blue was removed. However, that is obviously a reviewer situation and a panel opportunity. It's not saying that the OAC or anybody wouldn't consider one of those. We just wanted to show where there was 2 reviewer consensus.
To that end, then I think that this $180,000 feels really close for me, and it feels like that's something that could get resolved in negotiations afterwards. Maybe in reducing some program costs. I would feel like we should maybe just move this one forward. I would make the motion.
I second Dharma's motion.
Danielle, discussion?
Yeah, so I was the reviewer of one of the reviews of the Best Care.
Yeah.
I did want to note that they had received M110 previously, and in their budget do list that they still had like a considerable amount left over. So I agree with moving forward, but I did want to make that note, like for negotiations, like that is potentially a place like from their, because they had a really large like total program cost. It was like 700,000 or something. But I think left over, they had like almost 500,000. So like maybe that's like a potential place that if needed to cut back to get that 180, they do still have a reserve from the last round of funding.
Thanks, Danielle. Dharma, based on that information, do you want to keep your motion or amend it?
I would just amend it to take off the overage from their program costs then for Best Care.
Okay, Liz?
I just want to make sure that folks understand that if an entity that's a Measure 110 grantee now has funds left in their current grant period, they do have to return those at the end of the grant. So it's not like they'll get to use them in this new grant period. So just so that people understand that background.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was unaware of that, so thank you for that.
I guess I would stand by the reduction amendment, just given that that's a really high amount to have left over, and that I would probably just take their experience with the assessment, that there might be an overage there that could be accounted for in their program costs.
Can we go back one slide too, so everyone can just see the amounts? Thank you. So Dharma put forward a motion that to move forward, I'm making sure I'm saying this right, the 3 applicants and take a reduction of the 180,000 from Best Care Treatment Services.
From their program cost specifically, yeah.
With their program cost specifically. Okay. Do I have a second?
Tatiana will second.
So we have a motion from Dharma to move forward Crook County, all 3 applications with a balancing the recommended or the base funding formula by removing the 180,000 from Best Care's program cost. That was seconded by Tatiana. Let's go to vote.
Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dharma?
Yes.
Hubert is not here. Nicole Silva? I think she stepped out for about 5 minutes. Zeb?
Yes.
Ariana?
Yes.
Ane? Dana?
Abstaining.
Danielle Cartwright?
Yes.
David Corse?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Is Greg here? Don't think he came in. Greta?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
John?
Abstain.
Judith, did she step out already?
She did.
Okay. Juliana?
Yes.
June?
I abstain.
Kathy?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Kirsten? Don't believe she's here. Liz?
Yes.
Luann? Mark?
Yes.
Nicole Corbin?
Yes.
Nicole Egler?
Yes.
Rachel Lawrence?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Sarah Adelhart?
Yes.
Sean McMahon?
Yes.
Stanley Minetti?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Tatiana?
Yes, please.
And Tim?
Yes.
That passes with 25.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So giving us back a little bit of time, just a heartfelt thanks for all of the conversations and the succinct review from the reviewers of the applications. My understanding is that we do not have, and I just want to clarify this with the team, the ability to live stream this afternoon's meeting. So we will need to cancel that panel review and we'll plan to regroup on Friday. And then we'll make sure that the slides are out to you ahead of time, that you'll see the breakdown that Kylie had. And this gives you just a little sense of just a potential path forward, and also deeply appreciating the challenge and the understanding that the need is out there, even when the full funding isn't necessarily available. So any questions, please reach out. Any other feedback, please reach out. We're trying to you know, improve as much as we can in a really, really challenging task ahead. With that being said, thank you, and please take some time for yourself with this early ending and no meeting this afternoon.
Do you know which entities which counties we think we're going to be voting on Friday?
On Friday, I know we will have Benton. We'll
No,
have.
sorry, there's no voting on Friday. It's just a short meeting for
I thought
the.
we had a panel meeting too. No.
Oh, I thought Dharma was speaking about the OAC.
No,
Oh, I'm
I meant
sorry.
the panel vote.
I'm sorry.
No, but thank you.
On for the panel, I know we will have Benton, we'll have Curry, and I know we are also thinking about moving forward with Clackamas, and that could potentially just be the full panel, given the number of providers there. So we will organize ourselves and get that out to this group as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks, Dharma. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.